Now, the Attorney General's office having been brought in, one of the functions of the Attorney General is to ensure that Supreme Court rulings are carried out. So this then brought in the federal government, and things were then on a collision course with the state authorities in Mississippi and the federal government in Washington. Now, to begin with, the federal government attempted to negotiate with the state governor. However, this didn't meet with any success, and so eventually the federal government realised that they were going to have to take really quite drastic measures to ensure that James Meredith was enrolled, and really the law itself was on trial as to whether the illegal tactics that the state of Mississippi was employing would succeed, or whether the law would be upheld. And so one afternoon, whilst all the students were at an American football match, the federal government flew in state official, federal marshals, and troops, and then they flew James Meredith in and got James Meredith enrolled at the university. That evening, President Kennedy went on nationwide television to make a speech explaining why the government had taken this action. And at the moment President Kennedy started his speech, all hell broke out on the campus at Mississippi. There were people throwing bottles, stones. Many people were injured. A couple of the U.S. Marshals were actually killed. Now, the Marshals had been instructed not to use live ammunition, so they were using gas against the people who were rioting, and the situation was really a very difficult situation.
You mentioned early on, Bill, that President Kennedy had taken very much a conciliatory approach to getting the Board of Governors and Mississippi in general on side with the way that he wanted to go.
Yes.
And his original speech to the nation about the situation was very much of, we've come this far, let us take it forward as a nation.
Yes.
And clearly that speech on the day of enrolling was very much of, this is what we've had to do. So not only was the law there in the legislation there being questioned and challenged, but almost his presidency, his sort of integrity as a president to be able to drive forward change.
Yes, indeed. The federal government was very much in a position where they had to take action, because if they had done nothing, then they would have been criticised themselves, and rightly so. But it was really a very an impossible situation, because attitudes were so deeply entrenched, this is what the federal authorities and other people who were attempting to bring about change were up against. That the people just would not budge, and the words that the president used in his speech were conciliatory, which was exactly the opposite to the words that Ross Barnett was using in his speeches when he was saying that my heart still says never, and really the state governor was fueling the fire, and thus inflaming the situation. In the midst of all this would have been James Meredith himself, who really was caught in the eye of the hurricane, and for him it would have been extremely difficult. I mean, studying can be very stressful at the best of times, but when people are hurling rocks and bottles at people, then it's even harder, and so.
I was just going to ask you, Bill, there, that you said there that President Kennedy brought in a lot of state troops as well as federal troops.
Yes, yeah.
I think I've seen numbers up to about 30,000 in total were brought in.
Yeah.
Now I know the student population certainly now is nowhere near 30,000. So it was more than. It sounded like Kennedy was expecting more than just the students themselves.
Yes.
He was expecting others to come in. So I suppose it demonstrates it wasn't just a university issue.
No.
It was wider than that, either in Mississippi or in other parts of the shall we say, the southern states.
Yes. It was really in effect the national government taking on the governments of individual states, and the states were using all sorts of tactics, both legal and illegal, in attempting to block